I've had this same conversation with Americans at least a dozen times, and every single time they seem convinced the United Kingdom suddenly popped into existence sometime in the 1950s. Like before that we were just scattered little villages, and then one day someone decided to launch a new brand. Just last week, a guy in Boston accused me of inventing British history because he thought it was too convenient that we already had a country name during the American Revolution. And wait until you hear what someone insisted we were called before we became the UK. I'm not talking metaphorically. Not like, oh, the culture shifted. I mean, they honestly think the UK materialized one day out of nowhere, like we were living in random huts eating root vegetables until suddenly, boom, Queen Elizabeth arrived and poof, we became a proper nation. I've lived in the US for 3 years now. 3 whole years. And I've had this identical conversation more times than I can count. Different cities, different people, totally different backgrounds. Same baffling conclusion. New York, Texas, California, it doesn't matter. The reaction is always identical. They look at me like I just claimed the moon is literally made out of cheese. And you're about to see what happens when complete historical memory loss mixes with absolute confidence. When someone who is completely certain about something that is completely wrong sits across from you at a coffee shop. When you realize no amount of facts, dates, or evidence is going to help, because they've already decided what sounds logical to them. The first time it happened, I genuinely thought it was a joke. I actually laughed. I waited for the punchline. It never came. They were dead serious. They genuinely wanted to know what my country was called before we supposedly rebranded in the 50s, like Parliament hired a consulting firm, held a strategy meeting and said, we need a fresh new name to stay competitive in the modern market. The second time, I thought it was just a strange coincidence. 2 people with the same odd gap in their history knowledge. Fine. Maybe they went to the same school. Maybe they read the same badly written textbook. But then it happened again. And again. And again. By the 5th time, I started taking notes. I wrote down what people said. I wrote down their logic. I tried to find a pattern. Where did this idea come from? How did so many people reach the exact same incorrect conclusion? Was there a movie I missed? A viral meme? Some huge educational collapse? I started asking follow-up questions. When do you think World War II happened? Who do you think fought in it? What about World War I? What about the American Revolution, the war where you fought against us, the British? The people who definitely existed because you literally declared independence from us? The answers I got hurt my brain. They made me question reality. They made me wonder if I was the confused one. Maybe I'd imagined British history. Maybe I'd hallucinated the entire timeline. Maybe the UK really was invented in 1952 and every memory I had was fabricated. Just wait until you hear what one guy confidently thought we were called instead. I'm sitting in a Brooklyn coffee shop minding my own business when this guy hears my accent and immediately slides into the chair across from me, without asking, without hesitation, like we're lifelong friends. Oh cool, you're from England, he says. Yeah, the UK, I reply. Right. So what was your country called before the 1950s? I stop. I look up. I wait for even the tiniest smile, a hint of sarcasm, literally any sign that he's joking. Nothing. His face is stone serious. The United Kingdom, I tell him. Really? Yes. Since 1801. He nods slowly, like he's trying to process new information. Huh. I figured you guys changed the name later, for marketing. For marketing. He actually said for marketing. As if the UK was some failed tech startup that needed a fresh logo. As if we hired a branding team who told us United Kingdom sounded better in a focus group. Oh yeah, I say politely. Huge rebrand. Same agency that handled New Coke. Total success story. He nods again, still serious. I genuinely can't tell if he understands I'm being sarcastic or if he thinks I'm confirming his theory. 2 months later, different state, exact same energy. I'm at a work event in Austin. A colleague, very smart guy, works in data analytics, spends all day dealing with facts, asks where I'm from. Nice, he says. So when did you guys get independence? From whom? I ask. I don't know, whoever you were under before. We were the empire, I say. He freezes. Stares at me. Wait, you guys were the empire? Yes. Nah, that doesn't sound right. I watch him, trying to figure out if he's messing with me. He honestly isn't. He genuinely believes I'm the one who's mixed up, like I'm confused about which side of history my own country was on. Are you sure you're not thinking of France? He asks. France. The country we spent centuries fighting. I look around the room desperately, hoping for a witness, someone to confirm this is real, but everyone's just eating tiny appetizers like nothing is happening. France, I repeat slowly. The country we went to war with over and over again. Yeah, he says. They had the empire, right? I excuse myself. Go to the bathroom. Splash water on my face. Stare into the mirror. I genuinely wonder if this is what losing your grip on reality feels like. A month later, I'm at a dinner party in Portland. Someone mentions Churchill. A woman teaching yoga makes a confused face. Very kind person, into wellness books and meditation. Wait. Churchill was British? She asks. Yes. But he was in World War II, right? So the UK existed in the 1940s? It did, I confirm. Her eyes go wide. Wow. I thought you guys were still separate kingdoms then. I ask what she thought we fought the war as. She pauses, really thinks about it. I don't know, maybe like a group of villages? A group of villages, I repeat. Right, we arrived at D-Day with pitchforks and stern letters, defeated the German army with local produce and positive thinking. Normandy was basically an intense farmer's market. She nods, still looking lost. I genuinely don't think she realizes I'm joking. Here's what I started realizing. It's not that they think we were uncivilized. They just think Britain is new, like Bluetooth or oat milk. Something that popped up in the late 90s, and everyone just went along with it. We're like a trendy startup that pretended to have heritage. The retro t-shirt of nations. And somehow, it gets worse. I'm in a bar in Boston. Boston, the city practically built to remind everyone of the American Revolution. You can't walk 10 steps without bumping into a plaque about throwing our tea in the harbor. I mention I'm British, and this guy lights up like I've told him his team won the championship. Oh man, so you know all about the Revolutionary War, he says. A bit, yeah. Must be weird knowing we beat you. We've accepted it, I say. So what was Britain called back then? Before you were the UK? Deep breath. It was the Kingdom of Great Britain. Then the United Kingdom after 1801. He narrows his eyes. That sounds convenient. What does? I ask. That you had a name back then. Feels like revisionist history. I'm now being accused of rewriting my own country's past by a man wearing a Sam Adams t-shirt in a bar probably named after someone who shot at British soldiers. In a city that is basically a Revolutionary War theme park. You can't declare independence from a country that doesn't exist, I remind him. That's literally how independence works. He takes a sip of his beer. I'm just saying it seems suspicious. A few weeks later, I'm in Denver explaining the royal family to someone over dinner. She seems genuinely curious, asking thoughtful questions. So you've always had kings and queens? She asks. For about 1,000 years, I reply. Even in the 1800s? Especially in the 1800s. That was basically our imperial high point. She stops mid-bite, her fork frozen halfway to her mouth. But I thought the UK was new, she says. Why would you think that? I ask. Because of Brexit. That's when you became your own country, right? I need you to understand what just happened. She thought Brexit was our Independence Day. She genuinely believed we'd been under the European Union for centuries, hundreds of years, and we just broke free in 2016 like some long-suffering colony finally escaping. No, I tell her, Brexit was us leaving the EU, which we only joined in 1973. Oh, she says. So we weren't ruled by Brussels for 500 years, I add. She looks relieved. That makes more sense. There's a pause. I can see her trying to sort it out in her mind. So what were you before 1973, she asks. The United Kingdom, I say. That's wild, she replies, like I've just revealed some shocking secret. Later, I start dating someone in Chicago. Smart person. Reads actual books, owns multiple bookshelves. We're watching The Crown, and she pauses the episode right in the middle of a scene. Can I ask you something? She says. Sure. When did England become the UK? 1707 for Great Britain. 1801 for the United Kingdom. She pulls out her phone. That doesn't sound right. I watch her search Google. I watch her read Wikipedia, the actual Wikipedia page with all the dates and historical facts. Huh, she finally says. You're right. I know. But that's so long ago, she adds. It is. So you guys were already a country when we became a country. Yes, I reply. And we became independent from you, she says slowly, thinking it through. Right? Yes. That's literally the story. But, before that? Before that? Before what you're explaining. What were you before that? What do you mean? I ask. Before what? Before the thing we're talking about? Before the existence of the country that existed? My brain is folding in on itself. I don't understand the question because the question doesn't understand itself. At this point, I made a timeline in my phone, a proper chart with dates and events and proof. Over the next 2 weeks, I showed it to 7 different people. 5 of them said this feels fake. They looked at documented history, at actual evidence, at verifiable facts, and still said it felt fake. Like history was gaslighting them. Last month, I took a friend to a touring British Museum exhibition in New York. We walked through the entrance, paid for our tickets, and stepped into the main gallery. Behind glass displays were real artifacts, objects you could see with your own eyes, with plaques describing what they were and where they came from. We stopped in front of a display from the 1600s, a crown, jewelry, handwritten documents, all glowing under the lights. Wait, this stuff is from Britain? He asks. Yes, but Britain existed in the 1600s? Yes. As the UK? As England and Scotland separately. Then Great Britain from 1707. He stares at the crown, 4 centuries old, right in front of him. This is blowing my mind right now. How did you think we got the items in the British Museum? I ask. There's a long pause. He's still staring. I thought you bought it recently. Bought it from where? I don't know, like History Depot? History Depot? He said that with confidence, like there's a wholesale warehouse somewhere in New Jersey where nations load up on centuries-old artifacts. Like we walked in and said, we'll take the medieval crown, 3 Victorian documents and whatever 1600s items you've got on clearance. Did we use a coupon? I ask. He ignores me, already wandering to the next display, which has coins from the 1500s. These are old, he says. Yes, I reply. No, I mean really old. Yes, I repeat. So, Britain's been around for a while then? Yes, I say. Britain has been around for a while. Here's what I've realized after living in the States for 3 years. The American school system teaches the Revolutionary War as the moment history begins. Everything before 1776 becomes a blurry, unimportant prequel. Everything after 1776 becomes America's main character storyline. America is the center of the plot. Everyone else is just a background extra who appears when the script needs them. The idea that the UK existed before America? That's treated like a continuity error. A retcon nobody asked for. A prequel that contradicts the franchise timeline. With a confusing backstory that raises too many questions. And the wildest part? I started doubting myself. I'd be lying in bed thinking, wait, was there really a United Kingdom in 1823? Did I imagine the Victorian era? Did I hallucinate the British Empire? Was I mixing it up with some film plot? I actually Googled my own country's history. I typed United Kingdom history into the search bar and read the results like some confused tourist. I was inside a country that only exists because it fought a war against us, and I was checking to make sure we'd existed long enough for them to fight us. Enough people told me I was wrong that I started to wonder if maybe I was the one misremembering. So yes, apparently a lot of Americans genuinely think we rebranded after World War II. Like we were New Coke trying to make a comeback. If you enjoyed watching me spiral into an identity crisis over basic British history, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, there's plenty more cultural confusion coming. And definitely leave a comment. What's the most ridiculous thing someone has confidently told you about your own country that was completely wrong? Because I need to know I'm not the only one living through this. I'll be over here updating my timeline again, adding arrows and highlights, maybe even stick figures if that's what it takes, gearing up for the next conversation I know is coming.